Hi everybody, Mr. Miller here, and I want to just take a few minutes to talk to you about using evidence in your writing. I'm sure you've had a teacher in the past who told you you can't just have an idea, you have to have some evidence to back it up. Or if you're going to tell me that this is the answer to the question, quote the story we read to prove why your answer is right, that kind of a thing. And that's good advice. Today I want to take a look at how to do that like a pro so that all your ideas flow smoothly and include the evidence in a way that's persuasive, in a way that's easy for your audience to follow, and in a way that protects you from committing plagiarism. So with that introduction, let's look at the first slide here. And my students and I a few years ago came up with this system, the SQP. We called it the SQP. It's not a real word. Don't look it up. It doesn't exist except for in our world. So pronounce it SQP, but just remember the S, the Q, and the P. Now, what are those? Well, let me show you what they aren't, and then I'll show you what they are. The first example here might be something a student would write. This is a very simple example, but you might have a claim you're making. He wrote a lot of famous stuff, to be or not to be. That first sentence is a student's idea, and the second sentence is obviously the evidence. It's quoted from Shakespeare's play Hamlet. But the second example has the exact same claim in the first sentence, but look at the second sentence. In Hamlet, so now we've identified which play, the suicidal prince asks, so we know which character. Hamlet was in fact accused of being suicidal. And then we get the quote, to be or not to be. That's the actual quote, followed in parentheses by author's name, and the Act 3, Scene 1, line 56, so we know exactly in the play where that came from. So you can see there's more information there. With the parentheses, you show where you got the information, that you're not just making it up or stealing it. And then that first part before the quote, the part that says, in Hamlet, the suicidal prince asks, gives your audience, your readers, some information so they know where that came from and can follow your ideas a little better. Now let me break this down with some color coding. Basically, that first part is in red. We call that the signal phrase. That's like a signal, like a light signal when you're driving or something that tells your reader, hey, some evidence is coming up and here's a little background on it. The Q is the quote, that's in blue, and then the parenthetical citation, that is the page number kind of stuff that goes in parentheses. That's in green. The important part here that you have to add is the signal phrase that introduces the quote, gives some context like where it came from, that sort of thing. So let's look at another example, another simple one. But in red, we have the signal phrase, Smith states, comma, blue is the quote, this book is terrific, and green, 102, that would be a page number where we got it, and then a period at the end of the sentence. You'll see this is not that different from what you may have done in the past. You still have the quote. We're just adding where we got it, the page number. And in the front, we're having a signal phrase here to tell us, in this case, who said it. And then we have what I call a descriptive verb. All these verbs more or less mean says or writes. And I gave you a few more options on verbs you could use down here. But that kind of sets it up with a little better flow, and it documents it in a way that you can't get accused of plagiarism. Now, you might also have a signal phrase that ends in the word that or as. Not a big deal. You just get rid of the comma. Smith points out that, no comma, millions of students would like to burn this book. 53, period. Again, the signal phrase in red, the quote in blue, and the parenthetical citation in green in parentheses, followed by a period. And again, these are just a few options. You might use Smith argues that, Smith emphasizes that, Smith refers to the situation as, and then start your quote, and then end with your parentheses with the citation. These are all very basic. It's just an intro. I'm going to give you a PDF with more details, and we're going to practice this a little bit. And once we get comfortable with the basics here, Then we're going to go into a more sophisticated style of SQP that'll really upgrade your writing. But let's work on the fundamentals first. So take a look at the handout and let's practice.